Hello there everybody, and thanks for joining me for this live stream today. I'm digital artist Aaron Rutten, and today I'm going to be answering your questions about digital art, about being an artist, any kind of art related question. I'm also hoping to do some channel reviews or some reviews of art related channels. Doesn't necessarily have to be just digital art, it could be traditional art, or it could be something creative like graphic design, really any kind of creative channel. So I'll go ahead and start answering questions. Bill's here, Anthony's here, Drawing Dude is here, lots of familiar faces. I guess I don't know what your face looks like, but lots of familiar people. Okay, so let's get to some of those questions. Again, if you want a review of your art channel, just feel free to put it in the comments there and I'll add it to the pool of possible reviews. So first question, this one was from Celine. How many years does it take to master digital art or art in general? And someone else in the comments had said everybody works at their own pace. And that's true. Everybody does work at their own pace. I think some people can master something in a shorter period of time than others. But everybody's capable of mastering something. It takes dedication. It takes wanting to do it. And the more that you want to do it, and the more that you can find time to learn about art and to master art, the quicker you're going to get there. Some people have the expectation that they're going to read a book or they're going to watch one of my tutorials, not 1,000. And they're going to learn how to be digital artists, and maybe there's a few people out there who are capable of that, but most people take a long time to really master something. Am I a master of anything? No, I'm not. I might have this little thing that pops up over here on the left that says Corel Painter Master Elite, but that's a title that was given to me by Corel. So, you know, I don't consider myself a master of anything. I consider myself to be better than the, well, I don't want to be unfair and say better than the average person, but better than somebody who's not as experienced as me. Let's say that. And I'm not all that experienced in art. You know, I'm only 35 years old. There's people who have been painting for twice as long and longer than that. And those people might not even consider themselves to be masters. So it takes a long time, but the more you put into it, the quicker you're going to get there. That's what it comes down to. Think of it as a journey, like a literal walk to somewhere. If you're walking to school or to the store or wherever, if you just kind of like, you know, you're just walking around like swaggering and whatever, you know, it's going to take you a lot longer to get there than if you run as fast as you can. And sure, it takes more energy to run as fast as you can, and it's more difficult. And even so, you might build endurance and stamina and be able to run faster and faster, and that's a good analogy for learning. The better you become at learning and the more you can absorb, the easier it's going to be to absorb stuff. Like, you might get to the point to where you can watch a video and not even watch the whole video, just skim through and go, okay, there's what I need to know, and there you go. I do that all the time, which is why I'm not a master of anything, because I dip into information and I take what I want and I process it until I get the gist of it, and there's very few things that I feel like I need to master. Because being a master is really about meeting everybody's expectations about you, and very few people can do that. I'm willing to bet even like Rembrandt, who people talk so highly of, there's probably a lot of people who thought he just sucked. He was like the worst artist ever for whatever reason, and he probably got criticized all the time. I'm sure if I took the time to read a biography on Rembrandt, there's probably all kinds of stuff about that in there. And that's just the reality of being an artist. I get it all the time. You know, people talk about how I'm the worst artist and I shouldn't even have a YouTube channel and this and that, and it's like, who are people making art for? Are they making art for other people? Or are they making art for themselves? You know, that's what you have to ask yourself, because there's lots of kind of different artists out there. I happen to be one who's making art for myself, and if I can share that art with other people and other people find value in that, then I'm going to do that. And it doesn't really matter if I'm a master, if I can, you know, blindfolded draw the Sistine Chapel or whatever. It doesn't matter to me, because I have my own set of goals. So, you know, I could whip myself about it and be like, dang, you need to whip yourself into shape, and you need to meet this person's expectations and that person's expectations. I'm going to be really unhappy, and I'm not going to be enjoying myself, because I'm going to be stretching myself in every direction, trying to master everything. Because let's say I master drawing portraits or something, and that appeases this one person who thinks I suck because I can't draw portraits. Well, guess what? There's going to be this person over here who likes anime, and if I don't master anime, then, well, then I still suck at drawing. And if I don't master drawing cars or something I'm not interested in, you know, model trains, something I'm never going to want to take the time to learn, I can't be a master. So no one's really a master. You know, that's a title that's given to them by other people. It's a compliment, but it's not fact, and you shouldn't aspire to that. You shouldn't aspire to be a master. You should aspire to be happy painting or drawing or doing whatever it is that you're doing. And as long as you're happy, it doesn't matter how much you've improved. You know, some people are so obsessed with being the best, and that's really just an insecurity. I think you should be obsessed with being happy. So that's my long-winded answer to that question. How many years has it taken me personally to master art? As I said, I haven't mastered anything, so I'm in it probably at least 30 years or so. I don't know when I started drawing. I was probably even younger than that. So maybe more than, somewhere between 30 and you know, I don't know, 32 years maybe. And I'm going to keep learning about art as I go until I'm, you know, as old as I get to be. So, you know, maybe that's not the answer you want to hear. Maybe you want to hear, okay, if I work really hard for 5 years, I'm going to master painting. But, you know, that's, if you want to talk about it, let's put the whole master thing aside. If you just want to get good at painting, good enough to where you feel confident and good enough to where you can make some money off of it, you know, that probably took me, again, I've been drawing for a long time, so all of that has been practice. So you need that practice. You need to be practicing constantly. But I think it wasn't until maybe in my 20s, my very early 20s, when I started to get really serious about it and go, like, okay, I want to see if I can, like, be capable of doing this. And there were certain artists that I looked up to, like Salvador Dali, and, you know, I challenged myself to be able to paint as close as I could get to that level of quality, you know what I mean? And by no means am I as good of a painter as Salvador Dali, but I got to a point to where I could see that I had no idea what I was doing, and then I got to this other point where, okay, like, yeah, now I have a technique, now I can crank out paintings, I'm making paintings that people like and they comment on. Maybe they're not the best paintings in the world, of course I could do better in 5 or 10 or 20 years, but nevertheless, I'm at a point where I'm obviously making money off of being an artist. So how long did it take me to get to that point then? Let's say maybe age 20 to age 30. That's 10 years. You know, that's an estimate. But again, you have to consider all of that background of taking art classes when I was in grade school and high school, and drawing. That's what I did. That was my thing, and it's still my thing, and I do it, you know, I do it a lot. I'm going to end up eating up this whole live stream with one answer. So let's hit the comments a little bit here and see what else we have. I have a few more questions though to answer. Drawing Dude says, love your channel, awesome art videos. Thanks, Drawing Dude, much appreciated. There's a good question here I'm going to capture. This is me being organized. I got Evernote open here. One of the most important things for me, and probably a lot of creative people, I'm going to digress a bit, is you have all these ideas constantly. Like, your mind is constantly chattering at you, and it's, for me, it's hard to pay attention to my mind and anything else sometimes. Like, if the TV's on and I'm thinking about something really deeply and you know, I'm just distracted by whatever I'm thinking about, I can watch, you know, a whole TV show and not even pay any attention to it. I can, you know, listen to music and tune it out. I used to really enjoy reading, but as I think I spent more time on art, it became really hard to read because I'd be like looking, you know, reading the entire page, and then somehow whatever I was reading on the page made my imagination go off and I started thinking about something else. And I read the page, but I didn't comprehend it because my mind was occupied with whatever else I was thinking of. So what really helps me is, since I have so much going off in my head and like so many ideas about my YouTube channel and what I want to do and art ideas and all these things, rather than just let them fizzle out and go to waste, I put everything in notes, and I have notes and notes and notes and notes and notes. People have accused me of running out of video ideas because I'll post some easy videos about stuff that a lot of people know about, like how to watch videos with captions. Sure, a lot of people know about that. Probably millions of people know how to click that little caption button down in a video. But there's a small percentage of people who don't, and those people appreciate videos like that. So have I run out of ideas because I'm posting short, easy videos? No, I'm overwhelmed by the number of videos that I have. Like I look at that list, and I actually had to organize it the other day, and I had one long list of maybe hundreds of ideas, maybe more than that. Like some of them were like notes that had several ideas within them. Many, many notes, and I separated them into categories. So now I've got like ideas that are about YouTube related videos, or ideas that are specifically about illustration, or ideas that are specifically about Corel Painter tutorials. And that helped kind of make it more digestible, because it was hard for me to get in and tackle that list of things to do, because you had to really dig through it to like so some days you only feel like doing a certain thing. Like today I feel like doing a live stream, so that's why I'm doing it. Wouldn't it be nice, rather than have a big list of 200 ideas where I have to search through to find that idea for the live stream, if I just sort everything and then I can go and pick ideas based on how I'm feeling. Like, do I want to do an illustration today? Okay, there's all of my illustration ideas. Seems obvious, but I guess it took getting a certain volume of ideas to have the necessity to categorize them in that way. Mariana wants this t-shirt. Mariana, you can get this t-shirt. I'm going to type in the link. I think this is the right link. Let's hope that it is. Let's see. Is it the right link? No. I failed. I don't even know my own link. Come on. Can't even find myself on Spreadshirt. Well, nevertheless, go to spreadshirt.com. and search for Aaron Rutten. And then you'll be able to click on my little link. Oh, I have to do user Aaron Rutten. See how smart I am? This is the thing is, I save this stuff as bookmarks, so I don't have to remember the link, but I'm using Chrome this time and not Firefox, which is what I usually use. So I don't have my bookmarks, and I didn't want to fumble around looking for them. So there's that link. If anybody wants this shirt or any of my other shirts that I've designed, definitely pick one up. It helps support the free videos that I post on YouTube and live streams like this. And Super Chat does as well. There's that little $ sign down in the bottom of the chat. If you have a spare $1 or $2, something that you would tip somebody for making a Subway sandwich for you, give that money to me, because you know what? I'm making these free videos and doing these live streams, and I gotta eat too. And if you want, yeah, sorry for the 404 error message, Jonathan. Try that. What the heck, Spreadshirt? You're dropping the ball here. Guy can't even get his own link. All right, well, I would recommend just going to Spreadshirt and then searching for Aaron Rutten, because that seems to be working for me. And you know what? When this video is up later, after it's live, I will try to remember to put that link down in the video description. All right, so Chris says, thank you for doing what you do. You're welcome, Chris. Thank you for watching my videos and supporting what I do, because if people didn't watch, if you guys didn't show up to the live streams, you didn't have great questions all the time, I'd have nothing to say, and there'd be no channel. Okay, I'm just going to paste in a couple more questions here, and then I'll start answering some. So here we go. Would I like to give insight into how I script my videos? And I'm sorry if I'm not connecting who posted the comment. I didn't think to capture that, but You've all had great questions. Thank you for that. So insight into how I script my videos. I started talking earlier about Evernote, and you can use any kind of note program, but what you need to do is you need to make notes, and then you need to make scripts. And a lot of people try to keep it all in their head. And when I first started making videos, my first few tutorials, if you look at my oldest videos, like these old mountain painting or ocean painting tutorials that are hours long, believe it or not, I was so stupid that what I would do is I'd start recording the video and I'd get half hour through, an hour through, and I'd make a mistake, like a mistake in the painting, or I'd like, anything could happen, right? And what would I do? Would I stop the recording and then like continue on from that point? I would stop the recording and I would re-record the whole video, like just redo it. And then after a while I was like, why am I doing that? It's mainly because I didn't necessarily know what I was doing. You know, I was kind of learning how to record tutorials and how to edit video as I went along. I didn't go to college for that. You know, I never really had the means to do it before that point. So, you know, I was just kind of learning as I went along. But now I'm a lot more organized. Now I use, what I do is, so I'll have an idea, right? What was one of my more recent ideas? Let me pull it up here in Evernote, and maybe I can show you. See if I can show you something here. Okay, so here's a good one. Let's see if this will show up on my screen. Probably been blurry for half this live stream. This camera is great. I can lock it onto my face, but sometimes it gets unlocked here. So let's do this. You guys are probably done looking at my giant head anyways. So here's an example of a note. The note is called "What to Do About Muddy Colors," and this was inspired because one of the people who supports my work on patreon.com/Aaron Rutten had a question about one of their paintings that they posted, and I like to give people critique there if they want it. And he asked what to do about muddy colors, colors that are just not vibrant and not bright. And basically what I did is I took my reply to him and I broke it up into different bullet points so that then later I can use that for a video. Because why not? If that's a useful answer for somebody, for one person, it's probably a useful answer for multiple people. So that's one example of a note that the idea, you know, was given to me there. But let's see, another one here. It's like they're really organized, but to try to find one that's okay. Here's another one here. So I thought, you know, it might be fun to make a video about how to do a painting in a scratchboard style. It's where you have like a black surface and you scratch away to reveal the white underneath. It's almost like a negative painting. It's white lines on black. Pretty cool style. And I thought, you know, I just had that idea pop in my head on, let's do that. So at the very least, I have a note that has no contents, but it has a title, and that title is the general idea. And if that's all I have, and I'm in the middle of working on something else, so I don't have the time to like sit there and write out the whole script, because that's what'll happen. You'll get an idea and you'll go, okay, I'll put down some bullet points, and then all of a sudden those bullet points will turn into paragraphs, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm writing a script here. I was supposed to be doing something else. At least that happens to me a lot. So it's important when you have those ideas to pop in to write them down, because if you don't and you continue with whatever you were doing, you might forget them. So at the very least, write down the general idea. Sometimes that's not enough, and you might look back at that title and go, I don't have any idea what I was talking about. So if it's a little bit more complex, have a few bullet points like I have here. I have a scratchboard tool or something with more grain that's related to what kind of brush I would use. And then add grain after, or as an overlay with a question mark. That's, you know, a question to myself because I don't know exactly what I want to do there. I haven't thought it out that far. Or scratch into a mask revealing layers underneath. That's another way that I could do it. So this is kind of like, I just put the idea down, I elaborated on it a little bit, And there we go. But then what do we do if we want to turn that then into a script? So this was a bullet point list, or no, this was even more rudimentary than that. This was an idea that was just a title. And then I made the bullet point list, and then I went through and researched all the facts. This is an upcoming video. I think it's coming up next Friday. It's about the RAND tablet, and the RAND tablet is one of the first graphics tablets. It you know, is essentially very much like the Wacom tablets, the ones without the screens. So I decided it would be fun to do kind of like a digital art history kind of review of that. So you can see this is written out more or less to exactly what I'm going to say in the video. And not all scripts have to be that way. Some scripts can remain bullet point lists and you can speak off the top of your head. The only problem is when you're speaking off the top of your head, it can be kind of hard to like keep yourself going and move through the video. You almost spend more time having to re-say things. Like sometimes you say something really well and you're like, yes, that sounded awesome. And you go back to watch the video later and there's like a booger hanging out of your nose or something. And then you have to go record it again. And you can't remember like exactly what you said. And if you want to say exactly what you said, you have to write a script anyways. So it just saves you. I know it seems like a lot of work to write out all these words. Like, damn, that's a lot of words. But it saves me from having to think about what I'm saying. And all I have to do is really read this thing. And if I need to, I can speak off the cuff about certain aspects of it. I don't have to say it exactly like it says it here. But this is my script, and this is what I say in the video, and that makes it really easy because that part's done, and then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to do all this improvisation. Improvisation is cool, and it's fine. It works well for live streams. I can't script this stuff. But for a video, a script, a well-written script, down even to the point to where what you write is what you're going to say is very important. It saves you a lot of time. And it seems like it's a lot of work, and it is, but it's less work to do this than it is to not do it. And I'm speaking from experience because I was really resistant starting out on YouTube to write scripts and to do all these things like edit videos and make thumbnails. It's all stuff that I do now. It's not a big deal. But it seemed like a lot of work. But what it took was just getting used to it. And once you get used to it, it's not so bad. So at the very least, write down your ideas as notes, bullet points, and then if you can work on fleshing them out before you record the video into a script, it's going to make recording that video that much easier. You don't have to read the script, but at least have those bullet points so you know all the topics that you want to hit. Because one of the worst things is like making a video and then putting it up and then later going, oh, I should have talked about that. This gives you time. And this isn't something I do all at once either. I will put the idea in a month ago, and then, you know, a month later I'll do the bullet points, and then a couple weeks later then I'll write it into a script. I mean, it's not like I have to immediately make this whole thing come together. So let me just kind of catch up on the chat here. So I will capture a few of these great questions. This is a great Q&A. Getting some excellent questions here. 000 Bullets wants to know, when am I going to make a video comparing Painter and Photoshop? I have, but I know that Photoshop has been updated quite a bit, especially in the brush department. So I do have a Corel Painter Photoshop 2018 showdown coming up pretty soon. That's in my list of ideas too. Then I don't have to be occupied with all this stuff. Let's see. Great questions here that I'm just capturing. And definitely consider, if you have an art channel, doesn't matter how many subscribers it has or how many videos you have or whatever. We're not trying to impress anybody here. What we're trying to do is we're trying to learn some tips and some tricks that I've learned over the years, and share them with everybody. And so your critique not only could be useful for you, but it could be useful for other people watching as well. You know, as I mentioned in the instructions of the video that are in the video description, Super Chat gets priority, but if you want your channel reviewed for free, you know, I'm definitely happy to do that. It's just, let's say there's 50 people who want me to review their channel all at once, then, you know, obviously Super Chat's going to get priority. But you can Super Chat anyways, just to be cool. Super Chat support artists like me and help them continue to do what we do. So more questions here. And I'll also just say, all you have to do to get your channel reviewed is just in the chat, just say so. And if I need to know, if you're not commenting from the channel that you want me to review, then you'll need to, of course, give me the name of the channel so I can look it up. And let me just make sure that I didn't miss anybody. So you get to look at me staring blankly at the screen and reading. So I think maybe... Okay, Momo's got one. So let me just really quickly pull up Momo's channel here and just make sure that there's not a bunch of nudity and stuff on the front page. Cool. Thank you, Momo. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll put Momo in my tab here. So let me start by saying that advice is subjective. That means that it's my opinion, right? So I'll leave it up to you to decide if there's anything that you're going to change. I'm not suggesting in any of these opinions that you need to change something. I'm saying that because I watch stuff all the time from Tim Schmoyer and Daryl Eves and Roberto Blake. All of these people have great tips about what to do for your YouTube channel. But the problem is none of them are artists. And so their tips might be good for like family vlogs or, you know, all these kind of general channels that don't necessarily apply to me. So sometimes I'll you know, take their suggestions and it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So you know what's best for your channel. I know what's best for my channel. So just keep that in mind. If I have an opinion about something, you know, if you know that it's working well for you, leave it alone. Don't change it. But if you're looking for some fresh ideas, some stuff to try, there's nothing wrong with that. I change stuff all the time, and I'm constantly trying to tweak stuff here and there. Sometimes I break stuff and I make it worse. Not often, but it does happen. But most of the time, the improvements I make things a lot better. So this is Momo Hoskin. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your handle. 34 subscribers. Initially, we have some channel art up here at the top. What I do notice about the channel art is the heads are cut off. Maybe the focus was supposed to be on the bodies intentionally. We will talk about channel art and what size it should be, because I have a feeling that this channel art is getting cut off by YouTube or by my screen, and it might not be on another device. And that's one thing to keep in mind, is things might look perfectly fine on your screen, but sometimes they don't look good on all screens, and that's a very hard thing to master. You almost have to kind of err on the side of stuff getting cut off around the edges and try to keep more of the important stuff focused like right in the very center of the banner, rather than having too much on the outer edges, because that might get cut off. You got some links for your different social media properties. I think that's great. One thing you might consider, which it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of hard to read the word Twitter here, and same thing for my channel art. If you look at my channel art, it's a little bit hard to read digital art courses. Now, in other channel art banners, I put like a black fade down there so you could read that better, or put a black box. But I don't really want to cover up this artwork, so I'm gonna just deal with that. And also, I don't know that a lot of people are really clicking on these. You know, there's lots of other ways to find this kind of stuff. So that would be one thing to consider. Another thing would be maybe some sort of branding. Like if you have a logo, it doesn't have to be anything super fancy. It could just be your handle, or if your handle is not your name and you go by a certain, you know, your real name or whatever, you could put that there in the middle, kind of like I've done here. You know, I've got my name and I've got what my channel is about, and it's optional, but you could have some information and say, you know, what your posting schedule is and some other things like that. Even though some of these things, well, I guess they're not. Well, so I don't have the buttons for them down here in the links, but up here at the top, you know, I have an indication of where my Facebook is and my Instagram and all that stuff. So those are some ideas. So your main video here is a speed drawing, and we will play through that just to get an idea of your drawing. That's pretty cool. I'm liking it so far. So the artwork is pretty sweet. And then it was kind of a cool teaser there in the intro showing, you know, what the painting will eventually look like, or teasing the content. So I'm not going to watch the whole thing. I apologize, but everyone's welcome to check out Momo's channel to watch the whole video. So got your reference photos there. That's good. So that's pretty cool. And then the background and everything. So artwork's awesome. Oh no. Oh no, I messed up the window. Why? I have to have the window in kind of a very specific place here, so that's why I'm fussing over it. Okay, so then the next question I have is, I'm trying to get some background here, some context. So you joined in November 2013, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to read your description there. So you don't have a whole lot of videos, from what I can tell, unless I'm missing some here. It looks like 3 years ago is when you kind of started. You posted a few videos, and then you did one. You kind of slowed down here, and then you're picking back up again. So it really hasn't been until about 5 months ago that you've been kind of getting back into your channel. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on these assumptions and add more background. Anthony with the $10 super chat. Thank you, Anthony. I will get to your question or review here as soon as I'm done with this one. So you started about 5 months ago. The artwork is really good, so that's kind of an important thing. Like, you have to have good content. It doesn't matter whose advice you take about optimizing your channel and getting them seen. If people don't enjoy looking at the artwork, then, you know, that's kind of a problem. So that doesn't mean that you have to be a super talented artist. Like I said earlier, you don't have to be a master. You can look at plenty of the stuff I post is not my best work. It's not a masterpiece, and people still watch the video, and I'm still able to make a living or reach my goals or whatever it is that you want to do. So I think you're good in that regard. I think that the thumbnails of the video could really be improved. So this is the thumbnail. This shows what's in the video, right? All this wasted space here on the left and the right is nothing. For one, it looks unprofessional, like you didn't take the time to make a thumbnail. I'm not criticizing you on that, because I did not want to make thumbnails. I thought it was just a chore to have to do. I gotta make a thumbnail for every video. But you have to. The thumbnail is really the most important thing. So what I would consider doing is just going into, you don't even have to have Photoshop or whatever. There's lots of free ways to do it. But basically, even if you have to take a screenshot of the speed painting, try to get the finished version if that's what you want to show, and make it fill the whole space. And I know that the painting that you did is tall, right? So obviously you were thinking, well, I want the whole thing to fit on the screen. So if I make it wide, then you don't see the whole body and everything. So what you can do in that case is then make the thumbnail to where you have, well, let me just show you. So I probably have one. You want to put the tall full version over off to the side, and then next to it do maybe a zoomed in version. That way you fill the entire space. Let's see. Oh, I know I got a good one, but it takes me so long to find it. Come on. Where's that thumbnail? Okay. Do you see what I did here? This is an example of something that's tall, right? And I want to be able to see all of Bernie Sanders. I don't want it to be cut off like this because the suit is just as important. So what I did is you know, it'd be fine if you just had a hard line right there separating the two images. But what I did is I photoshopped and kind of blended the edges a little bit and faded it out using a mask here in Photoshop. So you can kind of see that it just kind of fades, right? So then I get the best of both worlds. I get a little bit of more of a close-up so people can see more of the face, so that draws them in from a distance. And so you could, you know, do that with the face on your animal character there, and then have another one showing the whole body. You don't need to put text over it. If you wanted to put a label that says speed painting so that people can easily pick out your speed paintings here like you've done, I think that's great. I think obviously the font is getting cut off there so you can't see it. Here it's too small and it's too thin. Do like you did here on these labels. These are readable. 2017 art review. That stands out to me. I can see all of your art off here to the side. You have these little icons. I think, you know, I can definitely see some improvement in how you've started to think more about your thumbnails. So I would continue on with that. I can kind of see how you did it here in this thumbnail. You have a before and after. That's great too. You have to ask yourself whether or not the text is covering up anything important, and if it is, maybe it's not necessarily worth it to have it there. You might also consider putting some branding in your thumbnails. You might ask yourself, why is it that most of my videos have these little strips on the side? That's my branding. And so if you're watching someone else's video and there's a suggested video off to the side over on the right, then your video, well, let's see if I can find one here. Let's use your art and review. Ignore this videolytics stuff. I'll talk about what this is later, but this is normally what you'll see is suggested videos. And since I watch a lot of GameSack, that's coming up, and there's some other channels that I'm subscribed to, those are being suggested. Jazza's branding is Jazza, right? He has a little cartoon of himself in just about every thumbnail. GameSack has their GameSack logo. That's their branding. So if you're looking through this list, you can easily see, okay, there's a GameSack, there's a GameSack, there's a GameSack, right? Because my eye is picking out that branding. So that's what that little bit of branding does. You don't want to put too much of it on your video, and it doesn't need to cover your video. But, you know, a little bit of branding doesn't hurt. I don't know that that's necessarily all that important if you don't have very many videos, but making good thumbnails and adding branding and doing these things is better to do now. Do it now, because if you wait and then you have like 100, 200, 300 videos like I had before I started making thumbnails, I had to go back and I had to make thumbnails for all those videos. So I still had to do it. Just now I have to do it all at once. Now I got to go, man, I got to make 300 thumbnails. So don't make that mistake. Make good thumbnails. At the very least, if you're doing art, make the thumbnail about the art. That's the most important thing. It doesn't need to say anything unless it's important to explain, you know, this is the speed paint version of Bernie Sanders, whereas this is the 40-minute version, whereas this is the real-time version, you know. Those are the labels that I would put on the Bernie Sanders thumbnail. I could probably go off on a lot of other stuff here if I dove a little bit deeper, but I want to be fair to everybody who's watching and try to do as many of these as I can. I will do more of these, and so even if I'm not able to say anything more about Momo's channel here, the things I'm going to say about other channels that I review can be applied to probably Momo's channel as well. So, thank you, Momo, for letting us check out your channel, and I hope that some of those tips were helpful, because this is the first thing you see, and I'm able to make all these assumptions or whatever, and they might not be true, but that's how people are going to judge your channel when they look at it. They want to know what's it about. They want to really be able to see the artwork clearly, and if you can, then you're gonna get a lot more people subscribing and watching your content. So let's check out, oh, Jonathan with another $10 super chat. Thank you, Jonathan, much appreciated. He has a question that I will answer really quickly, and then I will check out Anthony's channel since that's going to take a bit longer. Jonathan says, I have my PPI set to 300 and my resolution set to 2000 by 3000 pixels, but when I'm doing line art, I still have pixelated lines. If I make my lines thicker, it looks better, but then my art looks really blocky. 2000 by 3000 pixels is not a lot of pixels, really. It kind of depends on the work that you're doing and how far away you're going to look at it. So if you're zoomed into it at 100%, chances are most lines, especially if they're fine lines, are going to look blocky. Let me go back to my... Let's do this. Let's do some demonstration. The screen is showing you your artwork in pixels, right? So let's see, 2000, 3000, 300 DPI. DPI doesn't really matter because the pixels are the pixels. It doesn't matter. That's how many pixels are on the screen. So when you're thinking of DPI or PPI, what you want to pay attention to is the amount of inches. That's how many pixels per inch. So if the artwork is 8 inches at 300 pixels, their pixels are going to be closer together and there's going to be more detail. If the artwork is 80 inches at 300 DPI, or 80 inches at 3000 pixels or whatever, there's more pixels, or the pixels are bigger, I guess. So let's do this. Let's draw some line art with a line art brush. So this is at 33% that I'm viewing this, right? The lines look nice and smooth. Forgive me if I'm just drawing little scribbles. You can watch my other videos on me drawing actual stuff. Then I start to zoom in, and then, whoa, what is all this? What is all this jagged stuff? Why are these lines so jagged? These lines only have so many pixels, right? However, if I then go to image size, and I increase the pixels, let's double that, 6000 now, and 4000. Same resolution, doesn't really matter, because pixels are pixels, right? It's just how big is the print going to be and how many pixels are going to be in each inch of that print. If I change this to inches, it could be 13 inches, or it could be 2 inches, or it could be 40 inches. It doesn't necessarily matter. It would still have the same amount of pixels unless I change that information. So let me just make that change. Let's say 6000 pixels now. We'll wait a minute, let it catch up here. Now it's much bigger. And because I drew those lines at a lower resolution, those pixels or that jaggedness is still present. It's just smoothed out a little bit more because now there's more pixels representing those jagged edges. So that they're still there, they're just much, much smaller. So now if I make that same line with that same brush, at approximately the same distance, that line now looks smoother because it contains more pixels, or it was drawn on a canvas with a higher resolution. So this really illustrates 2 points. One is that even if you're seeing jagged edges when you zoom in, that doesn't mean that when you print it, you'll have jagged edges. Because I could take this, and when I print it, it might look just like this. It might be an 8x10 or whatever. However, I made it much, much, much bigger than an 8x10 in the virtual computer world. It exists bigger. Its maximum dimensions are bigger than I actually print it. So if that 2000 by 3000 canvas is intended to be the final viewing size, then you need to make a canvas that's much bigger if you want to be able to print it at that smaller size and have it still look clear, or even if you just want to have it look clear when people are looking at it online. You might also consider that the brush that you're using is maybe, I don't know which application you're using, maybe you could be a little more specific about that, but maybe the brush you're using is a little more jagged. Some brushes are smoother than others. So this brush I'm using here in Photoshop has jaggedness anyways because I wasn't paying attention to what I picked. But if I choose just a regular default brush, like the hard round, the edges of the line are much smoother, so there's less jaggedness. So hopefully that helps. Let me also, now this is something I was going to make a video about, and I made a note, and yeah, so I'm just bringing up my notes here so I can make sure I cover all of it. So basically, if you use a small brush on a low resolution canvas, you're always going to get jaggies because there aren't enough pixels to make a smooth line. That's summarizing basically what I said. If you work at a larger resolution or a larger scale, and keep in mind that resolution relates more to how many inches you're going to print it at, the pixels define how many pixels are in the image. So, you know, how are those pixels spread out per inch? If you're going to print it at 8 by 10, start it at 11 by 14 instead, and that way you'll have all those extra pixels to make your lines nice and smooth. You can increase your resolution as well. Another possibility is the tablet. Some tablets have a lower pressure sensitivity, and so you might find that maybe that's what's causing jagged lines or jaggedness in your strokes. You might also consider, you know, if you're zoomed in at 100%, some applications will anti-alias the edges and intentionally smooth them out, and some won't, and you can turn that setting on and off. And you might notice that if it's not anti-aliased, it looks a little more jagged. And then another thing to consider is that if you're saving your file as a JPEG or a format that's compressing it, like a GIF or something that's kind of throwing away information, that might, in saving it, make the edges a little bit jagged because it's throwing away some information and compressing the image. So make sure that you're saving as a high resolution format, or a lossless format. You could use PNG, you could use TIFF, you could use Photoshop PSD or whatever the native file format is for your application. Bitmap especially will cause jaggedness in your lines, so keep that in mind if you're saving as bitmap. Some people do need to save as bitmap. I don't know that they do anymore, but a lot of people would do that for comic and line art. And then if you zoom in and you're looking at your artwork past 100%, you're gonna see jaggedness. So, and if you enlarge your image beyond 100%. So there you go. Hopefully that was helpful. Jonathan says they've been using Krita and just got Open Canvas. I haven't used Open Canvas, so I can't say much about that, but Krita should be doing perfectly fine with line art. I'm guessing it's probably the resolution that you're using. Line art's one of those things where you'll notice jaggies more than other forms of art that don't have very, very thin lines. Just gonna block somebody here. Okay, so one more thing I want to do. I knocked over Bebop. Knocked over one of my Ninja Turtles behind me there. You probably already, you're just like, yeah, shut up about the jagged thing. But one more point I want to make, just an analogy. So this is a light bright, right? It has this grid of pegs. If I want to make a diagonal line with these pegs, since there's only so many holes, if I try to make like a diagonal line all the way across, it's going to look jagged. It's going to have that stair-stepping. These little holes, these are just like the pixels, so I'm limited in the amount of curving that I can do on these edges, right? Like that's kind of an abrupt little chunk taken out. But the reason being is there's no way to like really put a peg there or a pixel there without it looking even worse. So if I had many more holes, I had a much bigger light bright, the holes are the same size and the pegs are the same size, but the light bright is much bigger and there's more holes. That's just like having more pixels. And then, you know, how many inches you're going to print it out, that's kind of more or less like looking at it closer, you know, printing it bigger or printing it smaller and things like that. The pixels are still there, but how many are there per square inch? So let's see, let's check out, Anthony, if you could just clarify, would you like me to check out your art channel? I didn't know if that was specifically a super chat, just to be cool, or if you want me to pull up your channel. Or if you have a question. Any of those are fine. Thank you, Anthony. Jonathan says he'll start using a much larger resolution in the future. And only make the resolution as large as you need to, because obviously you can make your resolution really, really large and it'll slow down your computer. It'll be too much detail. What I would do is I would think about, are you displaying your artwork on the internet? You know, like, is it something that you need to be at a specific pixel size? Or are you going to print it? Or are you going to do both? If you're going to print it, I wouldn't think so much about how many pixels. You know, I wouldn't think about, is it 3000 by 2000 pixels? I would go, what's the largest that I want to print this? And you can only go so large with your canvas. You might check out my video on my channel about canvas size. Because if you try to make an image that's 40 by 60 at 300 DPI, it's going to crush your computer. It's going to be horribly slow. And most people who would look at a 40 by 60 image are not going to look at it so close that it needs to be at 300 DPI. So, you know, like I'll do stuff typically at like 18 by 20, or not 18 by 20, 18 by 24 usually is about the largest I go, and I do 150 DPI. Because then it's pretty big, but it's not so big that it's going to kill my computer. I'm just... okay. Anthony says, don't check out my channel, it's got nothing. Be better checking out my DeviantArt. Yeah, I do want to check out your DeviantArt. How do I find you on there, though? Let's see. And I think for that... well, where are we here? Okay. DeviantArt.com. So what is your handle? Urune? Is that what it is? Urune? I don't know. We'll have to see here. So while I'm waiting for Anthony to get me that handle there, I will answer some more questions. Somebody, okay, I'll just answer this one because it's an easy one. Rafia says, is using a stabilizer for sketching a good idea? Yes and no. I think for your initial sketch, it's probably better that you don't have too much smoothing so you can make more like fluid, loose gestures. Because typically sketching, you're kind of just trying to flesh it out. And then for me, I do iterative sketches, so I'll make that first sketch kind of dim, put a new layer on top of it, and then do a more refined sketch. And when you start to do those more refined sketches, you might consider adding some stabilization. I think a little bit's probably okay to use for sketching, but I wouldn't really use a lot, because what'll happen is it'll kind of hug your lines in tighter, and you might be trying to draw like a mouth or something, and you might end up making it a little bit smaller because it's pulling your line in and it's not letting your line go out as far. Using it for inking is great, but that's really about the only time I use stabilization is for inking. Like when I want really clean, really smooth lines. Oops, I'm knocking stuff down here. Anthony Liberty. Okay. Let's find Anthony Liberty. I should have guessed that, but you never know. Okay. So this is not a channel review, but we'll just check out some of Anthony's work here. Let's see, gallery. And got Pikachu. Let's see. I like this one. Is this? Oh, it's Samus without the power suit. Very cool. And let's see. Remind me again which software you used. Was this made in Corel Painter? That's pretty cool. I like the Pikachu. Now I'm gonna guess, probably since you watch my tutorials, it is Corel Painter, and this looks like the glow brush, so maybe I've answered my question. It's kind of a cool icon. I like the way there's no eyes and it has that nice glow to it. And this is cool, this guy floating above Earth. So yes, it's Corel Painter, I can tell by looking at it now. This is the, no doubt, Blenders and Turbulence or Hurricane. That's how well I know Corel Painter is. I can look at a painting and see the brushes in it and know what it is. This one's cool. Purple Witch. I like it. My question to you, Anthony, is why is it that you don't put up some of the stuff on YouTube as well? Is it just extra work, or you don't care to? Because I think, like I started out with DeviantArt and I didn't have anything on YouTube, and I found that DeviantArt, you can get some views here and there, but not really quite as many as you get on YouTube. And I know it seems weird to show 2D artwork in a video, but people are still looking at it and still enjoying it in the same way. And when it's in a video, sometimes you can give it extra context. Like you could, like people do speed painting. So if people like the painting, they might also like to see how you made the painting. They might like to hear you talk about your process. And in doing that, it takes something that's just a gallery of images that doesn't have a face attached to it, and it makes it more human, and then people can get to know Anthony rather than just Anthony's art. But at the same time, in learning about Anthony, they learn about Anthony's art. Lots of cool Pokemons here. These hands are really good. Beavis and Butthead. Gotta love that. I like the camera too. That's pretty cool. There's the black and white version and then the colored version. So lots of cool artwork here. I was thinking about doing channel reviews and art review and art critiques, but then I decided just to stick to channel reviews today. So you got lots of different Pokemon, a Goomba, but I'm not going to do art critiques today. So thanks for letting us check out your DeviantArt. Again, that's Anthony Liberty at DeviantArt. Check that out and click some of those like buttons on the artwork that you like there. Anthony says it's Corel Painter 5, so Corel Painter Essentials. And he says just have not and not have streamed yet. Oh, maybe that's it. That's a comment to one of the comments, maybe. Momo said, I didn't think about YouTube that way. Great explanation. It's such a big audience compared to anything else that it just makes sense to do it, And again, it adds that context. How are you gonna stand out, right? Like, there's lots of artists out there, I'm an artist. Anthony's an artist. A lot of you are artists. But with so many artists out there, I know there's a lot of people who enjoy art, but why is anybody going to look at my art, Why is anybody going to look at Anthony's art? You have to give people that reason. Because there's just lots of galleries out there to look through, and there's lots of cool art, There's 100,000 people who can, more than that, who can paint really awesome stuff, and awesome stuff is in the eye of the beholder. So what one person thinks is awesome, another person might not like. But point being, there's a lot of competition. And if you don't have some way to stand out, then people aren't really going to see you. You know, think about like, you're in a really, really big field of grass, right? And there's a bunch of flowers. Those flowers that are kind of sticking up more out of the grass, you're going to see those and you're going to go, oh, there's a flower over there. That's kind of, you know, that's kind of what it takes. You have to literally move yourself out of all the noise and all of the people that are competing with you, and make yourself known, but at the same time provide some sort of value. Like, it's great that you can make artwork and people can look at that, but people sometimes want a little bit more than that. If they're gonna become your fan or follow you or watch every single video you post or comment on every single piece of your artwork, they need to know who you are. If, you know, if I'd have just never been in any of my videos and it was just me talking over them or me just doing speed paintings with no narration, I might not have, you know, even 10 or 100 subscribers. But being in my videos makes a difference, and people know who I am. All right. Thank you very much for the super chats, Anthony and Jonathan. If anybody else would like a channel review, feel free to let me know. If you want a super chat just to be cool too, that's totally awesome. If you want to do like Anthony did and send me your DeviantArt page, I can show that too. So let's see. Rafia says, I'm still only 14 in school and my art teachers are really discouraging at digital art. You know what? That's going to happen to you. People are going to try to discourage you from things, and I don't know why they want to do that, because whatever you're into, that's what you're into. And if you like digital art, why does it matter to anybody else if you're enjoying it? Why do some people have to push their expectations onto others, you know? If you want to do digital art and you want to get good at it and enjoy it, and whatever your goals are, you do that. You don't listen to your teachers. Your teachers, they're just people with jobs, and sometimes they're unhappy in life, or whatever reason they have, they discourage people. They shouldn't do that. Teachers should not be discouraging people, especially art teachers. Most of the art teachers I've ever known have always been very encouraging. Some of them have been very real with me, and you know, when I swagger in thinking I'm all awesome, and you know, and I show them submit my work or whatever, you know, there was one teacher in particular in college, the short time I was in college, she didn't like any of my work, and she kept telling me I could do better. I went to a lot of art galleries that told me that I could do better and to come back, and I could do better because I was making stuff, you know, drawn on pieces of paper and being like, here's my thing on paper. I had a lot to learn, and I learned a lot about, you know, being an artist. And if it weren't for those people smacking me upside the head and telling me to do better, then, you know, I wouldn't have improved. But that's a lot different from discouraging somebody by saying, well, digital art isn't real art, or, you know, you shouldn't waste your time on it. They don't understand it, and they don't understand the value, and maybe it threatens them in some way. Like, maybe they feel like, well, digital art will become the new thing, and then all of a sudden I won't have a job anymore, and I don't know anything about digital art, so I'm scared. What if you ask me a question about digital art? Well, gee, I'm an art teacher. I'm supposed to know all this stuff. You know, anybody who knows anything about art knows that art comes in a lot of different forms, and people do art a lot of different ways, and there's no one way to make art. And anybody who says otherwise and says art has to be done this way or that way, they're not really an artist. So that's my opinion. That irritates me to hear that art teachers are doing that. But you know what? It's people discouraged me from making digital art. People I know, you know, friends and relatives and all kinds of people. You know, people discouraged me from being a full-time artist and told me I couldn't do it. Aaron, you need to get a real job. You're never ever gonna make money being an artist. Can't be done. It can't be done. Well, guess what? I just made $20 in a super chat. That's money off of talking about art. I didn't even draw anything, okay? I just talked about art. So I'm doing it, and I'm doing it well, and you can do it, and you can do anything you put your mind to if you just let people say whatever they want to you, but don't let it don't let it shape who you are as a person. Dr. Jack's here, new to this community. Hope everyone's having a productive day. Thanks, Jack. Dr. Jack wants to know how to get involved in the super chat. Not difficult at all. Down at the bottom of the chat, there's that little $ button. You can click on that, and then you can send some money my way, and I'd be glad to check out your art channel or answer your question. Or if you're just enjoying this live stream and the videos that I post, super chats help support me as an artist. So I would very much appreciate that, Jack. Thanks for joining us today. Super chat's kind of a new thing, so I understand that not a lot of people know about it, and still kind of getting used to it. But it's definitely a cool way to help support people. Dr. Jack has a great comment about what I was talking about, the being discouraged. He says it makes so little difference in the macro what people think. So honestly, take the criticism or discouragement on board and move on. Just do you, because as Kobe Bryant said, boos don't block dunks. So yeah, don't let the negative opinions stop you from doing what you're doing. Rafia says their art teacher is really old-fashioned. He believes that art is only traditional. He also ends up not only discouraging but insulting the artwork most of the time. In defense of your teacher, that's going to happen to all of us. But if we can work beyond that and be more open-minded as older people, I think that's great, and I think that's better overall, because that's kind of the problem that we're at now. I'm not as young as you, obviously. I'm quite a bit older, and I have my own generational problems to deal with, but you're at least closer to the end where people like him and people with those opinions are going to be less and less common. But I might be there when I'm your art teacher's age, or I'm assuming that he's much older than me. I might not want to make virtual reality art. That might be the thing, and I might go, oh, that's silly. You got to wear some stupid visor on your head and you don't get to hold anything. I mean, I might not understand it, but I don't know if I were an art teacher if I would necessarily insult and discourage it. I think that's kind of crossing a line. I don't have to do it myself, and I don't have to teach it, but if other people want to do it, let them do it. I don't think digital art is threatening enough to take away traditional artists' jobs or their income. It's competition, but art is art. There's just as many people who want to buy an oil painting as want to buy a digital painting. It's just digital art is bought and sold in a much different way than traditional art. You might go buy traditional art in a gallery or at a craft fair or something, whereas you might download a digital painting as a background to use on your website, or you might download digital art as part of a course or something. So let's see. Dr. Jack says, do I have to have an art channel to have a review? It's fine if so, but I'm just wondering. It all depends, I guess. Let's see what your... Let me just pull this up over here, just in case there's, somebody's butt showing on your main page. I'm guessing probably not, but... I don't see anything dirty on here, so, let's make it happen. There I go, getting all blurry again. Talking about how cool this camera is, and then it ends up going out of focus sometimes because I'm having it track my face, and then it doesn't. Okay. This is not an art channel, but I will quickly share whatever advice I have now. I don't, I don't have experience outside of art channels, but I'll do my best for some general YouTube advice, because all of this, you know, as I said earlier, there's some general advice that can be helpful and some that can't. So pick and choose what you think will work best for you. So documenting my mindset, Dr. Jack Callahan, new videos daily. The banner looks really good. I like that. You know, it's not getting cut off. It has your branding there. Looks very professional. I'm having trouble figuring out what your channel is about. Like documenting your mindset, I understand that is kind of a tagline. You're a doctor. I can extrapolate from your video titles that it's kind of personal advice, positive kind of stuff. The thumbnails look good. The text does kind of dominate the image, and the image serves kind of more as a background for the text and doesn't provide any context to what's in the video. So I think that's a little tricky, and I understand as a person who does advice videos too, that's a hard thing to communicate. It looks like you're using a lot of stock images, and so maybe you could find some stock images that are less pretty to look at backgrounds and more like a person going, you know, like trying to find their purpose, or whatever you can do to communicate more what's in the video, I think is probably a little bit better, because nothing's really, like, unless I really want to know how to get rid of negativity, nothing is drawing my eye into this thumbnail here. And on top of that, it says appreciate life, which is it kind of doesn't go with the actual title. So maybe it says negativity and it's striked out or something, or, you know, that might be a little bit better, because at first my eyes being drawn to the thumbnails and I'm not really looking at the actual title, and that's what most people do. So they're really eye-catching, but I don't think that when they catch my eye that it helps me understand what the video is about. 33 subscribers. Let's see how long you've been chipping away at the old YouTube. Joined May 2017, so you've not been at this for very long. I think given how your channel looks, it looks nice and it has a nice polish, and it sounds like it's got a good goal, and you know what it is you're going to make videos about. That's a great start, and I think keep doing all that stuff going forward. But maybe work a little bit more on making it really obvious to someone like me or anybody, like, what your channel is about. What's your value proposition? What am I going to learn? What am I going to get out of being on your channel? And make that just a succinct statement or a word or whatever you can, a sentence. You're documenting your mindset, but what am I going to get out of it? You know, why do I care about your mindset? And I'm not trying to be offensive or anything. I'm just saying, like, you know, and I hate to keep comparing things to my channel, but that's what I have to compare to. If you come to my channel, sure, you're going to get new videos every week, but what are you going to learn? If I just say I'm Aaron Rutten, that's not enough. If I say digital art tutorials, oh, okay, digital art tutorials, I'm going to learn how to make digital art. And at one point I did have a banner that said, you can learn how to make art. You know, I wanted to change it up. I don't want it in there anymore. I want to put a little more focus on my art. So I'm trying not to say as much, but what are people going to understand right when they come to your channel? Because not everybody's going to go to the about and read that. Not everybody's going to be able to figure that out based on, you know, what your video is about. It's obvious to you, I understand that, but to other people it might not be so obvious. So let's see how many videos you have. You're posting videos every day, just about, which is good. I know you put a lot of work into these thumbnails, and I don't want to, you know, I want to make you have to redo it, but I feel like I'm looking through like the storyboard of a war movie right now, and I understand like there's some context kind of in those frames, but it's not really it's not drawing me into the video, and that's really what it has to be a window into the video, even if you're not showing in the thumbnail what's actually in the video. Let's see. Don't sleep, don't work. So let's give you an example here. So I see why. So you're doing a gaming channel, and then you're giving commentary that's related to your point of view. So I see that. That's kind of an interesting way to go about it. So I can see now, in looking at that, why it makes sense that you'd have the military backgrounds. So that's a little tricky. How do you show both? What, like, it's a tricky thing, because the kind of person I can see coming to this channel is going to be a gamer, and they're going to specifically like the kind of games that you play, like first-person military shooters. But they're also going to want motivational advice, and those are kind of two niches of people that don't typically overlap that much, and so that's a little tricky. Let's see one that doesn't have the military. So this one's just a nice background, doesn't do much. One suggestion I would have for those is if you can, do kind of what I'm doing here, and I know not everybody wants to be on camera, but have yourself in a little box over in the corner at the least, if all you're going to have is that static image. That might be helpful, because again, like just like I was saying with making a YouTube channel and showing yourself on the channel, it's important for people to understand who you are. And it also serves the other purpose on that finding a purpose video, to have something else to look at. So I don't know, this is kind of a tricky one, because I don't have a gaming channel, and I know gaming channel advice is kind of not, you know, I've played video games, but you're gonna have to find a way to bridge the gap between gamers and people who want motivational advice, and that's not hard to do. I'm bridging the gap between making art and giving motivational advice. There's a lot of people who are not artists who watch my motivational videos, so it doesn't mean that even if it doesn't have the context or the background they expect to see, that's necessarily a problem. But you just kind of have to find a way to do it, and in the thumbnails that's a little bit tricky, considering what you have. I don't know that having the military image with somebody going is going to be a good idea, you know, for finding a purpose. So I don't know, that's a tricky one. But the overall message is maybe try to find a way to make it a little more clear what your channel is about. Like, make it easy for the average person just to know right off the bat what they're going to get out of it, and try to apply that same thing to the thumbnails, and make it like really obvious that this thumbnail is going to take you to this video. Even if the text just says it, you know, maybe there's a way to show it visually. Dr. Jack says, I don't do Call of Duty anymore because it wasn't necessarily relevant to my message, really. Exactly. Like, it kind of confused me. Like, I did not at all expect to see that when I went into the video. I expected to see nice backgrounds and stuff, you know, like a slideshow. So even if you don't want to be in the videos, at least more than one image, or, you know, I know it's hard to get stuff like that legally. And I do encourage everybody to use, you know, like if you're going to use stock images, make sure that you either bought them or they're free. So here's what I would say then. Not a big deal that there's military stuff on the stuff that's Call of Duty, because that makes sense. But going forward, maybe try to be more, if you can, in the videos yourself, and that takes care of your thumbnail. Because let's go to one of my videos here. So 2017 highlights. There's nothing going on in the video other than me talking. I'm emphasizing highlights by using a highlighter here. There's text on it. You know, there's not really much to say about this video. And so me being in it, my face You know, it may not be the most flattering picture of me or whatever. People are making that connection and going, okay, that's a person, that's who's going to give me this advice. Okay, like, do I like the way that person looks or not? Maybe it'll be superficial like that. Who knows? Nevertheless, I'm in the video, so that's in the thumbnail. And if people click on the video, that's what they expect to see. If they click on that thumbnail and I'm playing Call of Duty and I'm talking about my 2017 highlights, they're going to be like, what? Where am I? Where did I just go? I could have art in the background and not be in the video, but still, I think people would click on the video and then go, wait a minute, this is a painting process, so I'm hearing about the highlights, but I'm not hearing anything about the art that's being made. So I actually, well, what if I'm interested in that art? Are you going to have a separate video about that artwork? And then do you need to have two videos that are basically the same thing? I mean, it gets kind of confusing. So if you're basically speaking to people and you're giving advice and you're doing kind of a vlog thing, it just makes sense to be in the videos. So we'll move on from that. Hopefully that was helpful. Dr. Jack says, would I recommend multiple images that are relevant to the topic? You don't want to make the thumbnail too crowded, so one image is really going to have the most impact, I think. I mean, I can just kind of show you some of my thumbnails. Now, these aren't all I'm not saying I'm the best at making thumbnails or anything, but I'm just saying I've learned a lot kind of as I've gone along. If I'm using text, it's not covering up anything important. So like on Bernie Sanders, I tried really hard here just to have a little piece of text. Wreck-It Ralph, I'm trying not to cover up the face here. You know, I'm sacrificing and covering it up a little bit because I know that that's going to stand out among other thumbnails that are in a search, and so maybe that'll, you know, just kind of pop it out a bit. It's an art critique, so I want people to be able to see that that has context. Here's the chipmunk on my Draw This episode. I made sure to put any kind of branding or anything not covering the chipmunk, and there we go, we got the whole chipmunk there. How to critique art, I have a little thumbs up and thumbs down icon. That's the best I could do. Affiliate marketing, I have a $sign. These are not hard graphics to make. Here's me talking about a playlist of music that you can listen to while you make art that I put out every month. What am I going to put on that other than me down in the corner and then the playlist? You know, there's not really much I can do there. I could have stock photos of people playing music and stuff, or I could have a snapshot of one of the musicians, but then that's using that image of that musician. I don't have the right to do that, so I don't feel comfortable necessarily putting it in there. Here's a thumbnail for one of my courses. It needs the text because that's kind of branding that then ties in with the same labels and stuff that I use on the course itself. So it needs to have some text so that you understand it's a course. It doesn't say that it's a course, but you know, I feel like when I add too much information, it covers up too much more. So this, you know, my courses seem to work well on their own and people understand what they are, but I'm trying not to cover up as much of the image as I can. If you want to tease something, that's not a big deal. Like the group art challenge, this is artwork by a lot of artists. I'm only showing 4 out of maybe 6 pieces that are shown in the video, but I don't want to necessarily show all the artwork in the thumbnail. I don't want to show just one person's artwork because that's not fair, and it doesn't describe what you're going to see. So you can see kind of like, if I watch this video, I might see this butterfly, and I might see this leaf, and I might see that, and I'll see some other things that are like that. So I want to, you know, I want to see this whole leaf here, and then you'll click on that thumbnail. Digital painting of an eye, speed painting. I could put the word speed paint in here, but I feel like the eye on its own is enough to kind of draw people in, and you know, if they're already searching for speed paintings, maybe that's enough. So those are kind of some ideas there about thumbnails, but you can see I'm not trying to add too much to them. I'm trying my best not to make them too crowded. So I could put a lot on one page, but I'm not. I'm trying to resist doing it. Dr. Jack meant multiple images in the video. Sorry. Should you put multiple images in the video? Yes. People have the attention span of about 8 seconds, so I would consider that if you're not changing the image every 8 seconds, you're going to lose somebody's attention. But people might not care, you know, like you might not have enough images to use for every single video. I mean, let's say every 8 seconds you change your picture to something else, and the minute's, you know, 10 minutes long or whatever. I'm not going to do the math there, but that's a lot of images. That's a lot of editing. And then are you going to reuse the same images? I mean, I think what it's going to come down to is, for that kind of video that you're doing, you're going to need to be in it. That solves the problem. You don't have to come up with images. You don't have to edit them in. You don't have to worry about downloading stock images. You don't have to worry about your channel getting flagged because you're using images that aren't, you know, legal to use or whatever. If you're just in the video, that's fine enough. And I think people would rather see you, regardless of how self-conscious you are of yourself and how much you don't really like being on camera. That's what it's going to come down to. Like your channel is going to get to a point, if it's successful, that you're going to have to do that. So why not just start doing it now? You know, I don't want to be in any of my videos when I start doing it. I'm not in my first tutorials. It's my voice over what I'm doing. But eventually I realized that I need to be in my videos. And as soon as I started being in my videos, people started really connecting with me as a person and, you know, like having discussions with me and conversations. And before that, I was just a faceless channel, you know? What's up, Gear? Good to see you, buddy. Doing channel reviews and super chats. It'd be fun to do a channel review of Gear's channel if he's interested. He's another Corel Painter master. Dr. Jack says, or would you just recommend my face instead? You know, again, if it's a snapshot of your face and everything that you're wearing and the same background that's in the video, then yes. If it's just your face, the same photo, or even if you go do a shoot and you're looking up here and you're looking down there and you're going, you know, that's too much repetition. And I understand, yes, there's a lot of me in the video, right? Me. If you go to the playlist of my digital painting vlogs, it's all me and I look the same, right? But it's not, people aren't going to see the exact same photo used over and over and over again. And I'm wearing the shirt that I'm wearing in the video. You know, my hair is the exact same way as it is in the video. You can go way back here. I mean, let's go back a ways. Like, click on this thumbnail. And look at this guy. You got one of the Doobie Brothers here, man. This guy's, you know, once he's done recording his videos, he's gonna drink a beer and go move some, you know, some amplifiers and set up some drums at a concert. If my thumbnail is, you know, doesn't match the way this looks, and I instead, rather than having this thumbnail here, I got, you know, this guy here. It's it's going to be a little confusing. Even if I'm wearing a different colored shirt and all of a sudden my shirt goes from green to black, you know, people are going to be like, oh, that's weird. So I don't have to think about my thumbnail. I just record the video, right? Then all I do is go through the video and try not to find a stupid face that I'm making, take a picture of the thumbnail, just, you know, basically save it, arrange it a little bit, put my branding and some text on it, and if it needs more context than that, if it needs an icon and there's something I can make quickly and easily, I'll put it on there. And then it doesn't matter, because what people see in the thumbnail is what they expect to see in the video. And sometimes you have to work around that if you can't be in the video, or if it doesn't make sense. If you can come up with a better idea than what's actually in the video, then use it. Or if you have to, then use that. But otherwise, just be you. So that's what I think works the best, in my opinion. This is all opinions, really, when it comes down to it. So let's see. Jack says, thank you. That really means a lot. Thank you for your advice. You're very welcome. Momo seconds the master. The review of the master channel, the master Gear Duran. What do you say, Gear? Can we check out your channel? I mean, Gear doesn't need any advice from me, so let me just make that clear. He's doing very well for himself, but just to have something else to comment on, that would be pretty cool. I think people would like to see that. So I'll dip back into my questions here while we're waiting for some more reviews. Somebody had a comment earlier. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of talking. It's drying me up here. Someone had a comment earlier. Wasn't necessarily about, I guess it wasn't really a question. I said hi there or something in the comments, and they said, does anybody else have Aaron's voice saying hi there in their mind? And I thought that's kind of one of the places where you get stuck when you're starting out. What do you say? You know, like how do you, what's my camera doing? You know, blurry. Lock onto my face, damn you. What do you say? Like, why do I always say, hello there and thanks for joining me. I'm digital artist Aaron Rutten, and in this video, blah, 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 blah. Because what else are you going to say? You know, just have the thing that you say and just do that every time, and then you don't have to think about it. But then after that point, you kind of need to, you know, at least describe what the video is going to be about to help people understand why they want to continue watching the video. And then the end is the same thing. You can have the same call to action and say, make sure to subscribe to my channel and, you know, like this video if you enjoyed the content, and go to my website and download all my courses. So I just wanted to comment on that for a second and explain why I usually say just about the same thing at the beginning and end of the videos, because otherwise, I mean, what are you going to do? Ultimately, you're going to end up repeating one thing or several things. There's no way around that. And there's certain things that you're supposed to say. Like the call to action is like, that's what I want people to do. So I'm going to just say it, you know? People need to know who I am at the beginning of the video. So I'm just going to say that. That's all I really need to say. I feel like if I don't and I just kind of start the video, then people who don't know who I am are going to be like, who is this guy, you know? Why do I need to stick around for this video? So another question, can we have a brush that can have a traditional wet on wet style? Any tips on how to make brushes more realistic? Yes, you can have a wet on wet brush. Let me just switch to good old Corel Painter here. I'm going to leave that open too, because we're going to look at that a little bit later. Okay, Painter. So in Corel Painter 2018, which came out in the middle of last year, it has a category of brushes called thick paint. And I've talked about thick paint in many, many videos, but not everybody's seen those videos. So now wet on wet extends to a lot of different techniques, but it's essentially you got wet paint that you put down, and as long as you're putting paint that's thinner than that paint and is also wet and the canvas remains wet, the colors will kind of blend together, and you can do things like Bob Ross mountains where the paint breaks and stuff like that. Doing that in Corel Painter and in a digital art application is kind of two separate things. Like the canvas isn't necessary. There's no wet and dry for the canvas, right? So you're really looking for the brush that just gives you the effect that you want. So ignore the technique and how you get to that. You know, you don't need to put down magic white, and you don't need to do this and that and whatever, have paint of different thicknesses. You just need to find the mark that does what you want. So, you know, if I want that paint break effect, I could put down some paint here. And if I want it to kind of act like it's wet paint on wet paint, then I could pick a different color, and I can mix in some paint to it and so on, and it feels kind of wet. But then if I want to put a thinner paint on top of it, I create a new thick paint layer, and I use very light pressure. And let me just use a different brush and a different color here. Or not a different brush, I'm going to use a different paper texture. So now I can get that nice Bob Ross effect where it appears as if that paint is thinner and it's going on top of a thicker paint and it's still kind of wet. And if I, want it to smudge around a little bit, I can do that. And then if I want to blend in some, kind of paint to that, it still feels kind of wet. But the canvas itself is not wet. There's no liquid involved. There's nothing like that. It's just those brushes are giving me the effects that I want. So I highly recommend Corel Painter, not because I'm a Corel Painter master. I've recommended Corel Painter since I started making YouTube art tutorials. Reason being is it has a lot of brushes that do a great job of simulating natural media. And each year, or as often as they put out a new version of Painter, the brushes get better and better and they add more and more really awesome stuff. A lot of the other applications out there have art tools, but they're nowhere near as sophisticated in most cases as the tools in Corel Painter. There's some exceptions, like Rebel has really fantastic fluid media and watercolor, so does Expressi, and so there are some applications that in certain aspects outperform Corel Painter, but as an overall application, I find that it does some really amazing things, and it does them in the ways that I expect them to be done. And if I wanted to blend that, I could convert that to a default layer. I could take out my blender, and if I wanted to just very lightly blend it up, I could do that. If I wanted to really blend it up and smudge it around, I could do that, and then it kind of goes away. And so, in a sense, it kind of feels like there was a wetness and a dryness to that layer, and it is, in a sense, or it is literally a layer of paint that I can move around. And if I go back here to undo it, I can take it and move it around. So, you're trying to find the blender or the brush that's going to do that effect for you, but it's going to do it with the least amount of steps. Sometimes it's going to take more than one step. Like I had to create that additional layer there in order for that to work. If you want to learn how to do all that stuff, you can check out my art tutorials, especially my courses that are available on my website, aaronrutten.com. There's a link down in the description of this live stream. And I teach you how to paint mountains, and I teach you how to do effects that are comparable to wet on wet, but done in my technique, in a digital art style, being as efficient as possible and giving the most flexibility so that you can paint without having to worry about making mistakes. Mary's got to go to feed the starving birds outdoors. It's been a pleasure as usual. Temperature here in Maryland is about 13 degrees. Have an awesome New Year, Aaron. Bye. Thank you, Mary. You have a great New Year as well. Stay warm. Thank you for feeding the birds. Oliver says 84K subs and just 18 viewers. People, I don't even know what the point in people commenting like that is, but that seems to happen. Not every live stream, but somebody comes in and they're like, you got 84,000 subscribers and you only got 18 people watching? Yeah, I mean, am I supposed to have, is everybody, ooh, there's a hummingbird outside. I got distracted. Am I supposed to have all 84,000 of my subscribers watching me every time I live stream? A lot of people don't know that I was going to live stream. A lot of people live on the other side of the planet. There's lots of other reasons, so. Or it's just that I really suck and nobody wants to watch me. So let's see, another question here. I do agree though. Why do I have 84,000 subs and only 18 people watching? It's the question that I just cannot answer. I don't know. My guess, if I were to critique myself, is it's probably a lack of planning and probably a lot more people, if they knew about it more than an hour to an hour and a half before it happens spontaneously, that they would probably take the time to like make sure they're not at work or at school or whatever and watch. Probably a lot of people are gonna find out about it later and go, oh, I missed the live stream. Well, guess what? I'm gonna watch the recorded version, and then this video that only got 18 people watching at once, ends up getting hundreds or thousands of views. According to my stats, peak concurrent has been 42. So at any one time, 42 people have watched this, not 18. So there you go. Dave says, I watch your channel every day but didn't know you were going live tonight. Are there notifications for live? There are. It's just I didn't. Live streams are a very difficult thing to do because like you can say I'll do one next Friday, but then if like something happens and you can't do it, then it's kind of, I don't know. I don't like to pin myself down with things like that. Like I should, and it would have a much more positive impact on viewership. You guys would appreciate knowing about it ahead of time, and when I can, I do schedule stuff ahead of time. But sometimes it's like I think about doing it all week, and it's not until Friday when like I know that I can do it and I feel like doing it, and so that's as much notice as I can give. I also feel like it's kind of fun just to have, just to do things spontaneously. But if I were to plan out a little bit better and have a schedule, and like every Friday at 10 I'm going to do a live stream, that would be great. The downside to that though is that not everybody, like you just said, Dave, it's nighttime for you where you're at. So this might be a fine time, but in Seattle here, it's 11:47 a.m. So a lot of people are probably at work right now, or some people, aren't thinking like, I'm going to go watch a live stream right now at noon. I'm going to eat lunch or something. So there's no perfect time for anybody really. And if I go for peak viewership, that's based more on a certain demographic of people, and that doesn't necessarily encompass it doesn't encompass my whole audience. Like I could get a bunch of people hanging out at night watching me, and more people might watch at night, but there's a lot of people who would miss out on that because I don't do it during the day. So I just figure the important thing is to do it, right? Just do it. Don't overthink it. Don't think about when you're going to do it. Don't think about how many people are going to watch. Just do it. And so that's how I feel about live streams. Ye wants to know any courses or videos that you'd recommend for absolute beginners. Yes, mine. My courses and my videos. Go to my website, aaronrutten.com. There are links to both my courses and my videos. I have a nice library of all of my videos that you can search through. They're all sorted by category. And then I have courses as well. Now there's, the beginner stuff is going to be more in the tutorials, and then the more advanced stuff is going to be in the courses. But there are some beginners courses and some advanced tutorials as well. Just to answer the question about how many people are watching, it's going to fluctuate. Hopefully it'll jump up to 84,000 here pretty soon, but I don't think it's going to. Peter says some of us are at work. Thank you for watching at work, Peter. Don't get in any trouble, though. 9:47 in Cyprus, 8:47 in Germany. See what I mean? This illustrates my point perfectly. I'm thinking, like, I don't know if I should do a live stream at 10 because that's, 12 p.m. East or 1 p.m. East Coast, and, that seems kind of early, but then I want people in Germany and in Cyprus to be able to enjoy my live streams. I want people in the United States and Seattle where I live to be able to enjoy my live streams, but I can't make everybody happy. So that's why I do some live streams during the day and some at night, and there's variety, and then everybody gets to see the live stream and participate in it. Jana's here. Good to see you, Jana, from Patreon. Jana says she loved the new brushes this month. Thanks for the plug there and the endorsement. Jana's right. I release several new Corel Painter brushes every month. These are custom brushes, and you can get access to those by becoming my patron at patreon.com/AaronRutten. There is a link down in the description of this here live stream. So I'm probably only going to go till about noon or so, which we're coming up on. So I'm going to try to just blaze through the rest of these questions here as best I can. I want to just thank everybody, because I was a little worried going into this, doing the reviews. I haven't done reviews of channels yet, and I was like, nobody's, is anybody even going to be like, I don't know, in a position to like get a channel review, because I figure people are at work or at school or whatever. It's kind of early. So I didn't know if I'd get any requests for reviews, and I'm glad that I did, and I got to review a few channels. I will do this more if you all think that it's something that you enjoy. I think being an artist on YouTube is very important. I think YouTube is a tremendous asset for any artist. So, you might wonder, why am I sometimes doing advice about YouTube, well, it just makes sense. YouTube is driving a lot of my success. It's a major factor in me getting myself out there. You can, it doesn't matter how good you can draw or paint, if you can't market yourself and you just do not want to put in the effort to, you know, help people find your work, you're going to stagnate. You're not going to get anywhere. You'll make lots of great art, but no one will ever see it. And I see a lot of my contemporaries making that same mistake. I had the same attitude. You know, I'm an artist. I don't want to do all this other stuff to, you know, promote my art. Well, guess what? You have to. It's a business. You have to do it. You have to spend probably more time doing it than you do making art. So people who want to criticize me for, you know, doing quantity over quality, that's a smart move on my part, because I could spend, like I used to in the past, spend, you know, a month on a painting, but how am I going to make that into a video or a series of videos that I can post regularly? People would rather just watch a whole month's worth of work in a speed painting that can be shown in a few minutes, as opposed to, you know, me breaking that into like real time and posting 20 videos that are all of the same painting. People aren't going to want to sit through that. Some people might, but most people won't, and it'd be hard to grow a channel like that. So, you know, I try to have a balance between quantity and quality. I try to be consistent and post often and make sure that most of what I post is at least pretty decent. You know, it may not always be my best work, but that's why I'm able to be successful. It's not because I'm the world's best artist. I'm not. I don't consider myself to be. I don't aspire to be. I want to be happy making art, and I want to be making a living doing it rather than doing something else, because I've done other stuff for money and it's not fun. I like making art. I'm happy with what I got going on, you know? So there's no need to knock me for that. Jana has a good point. She believes that if the artist has another page like Patreon, she tries to support them because sometimes YouTube doesn't help them, and that is a good point. You can only get so far on YouTube, you know? Like, I have $1,500 each month in support from people like Jana and Mary and you know, quite possibly other people that are watching here who haven't popped out and said hi. That's paying my bills. That's, you know, paying for part of rent, and that's helping me eat and, you know, upgrade my gear. Like, you know, every single upgrade, or not every single upgrade, many of the upgrades I've been able to make to my channel have been due in part to support from people like Jana and people who have pledged to my channel. So I've talked about this in another video, but making a full-time living as an artist is a pie, and you can't rely on one slice. I can't rely just on YouTube, because then if something goes wrong, something fails, you know, they change their algorithm, there's adpocalypse or whatever, I'd have no money. I don't know what I would do. I'd have to figure out something else. I'd have to go get a real job. And I'm just joking. This is a real job. If you knew how much work I put in every single day to making this channel and making these videos, you'd be blown away. Blown away! Peter wants to know, do I ever release Art Rage brushes? I don't. Since Art Rage 5 came out, there's a reason to make Art Rage brushes, because you can make custom brushes. But it's one of those things where I want to make resources and tutorials for other software that's not Corel Painter, but most of my audience is Corel Painter, and it's a little bit risky investing too much into that, because I could make a pack of brushes, but then if I don't follow that up and be consistent with making Art Rage tutorials and talking about Art Rage all the time and making more brushes, if I don't do basically what I'm doing with Corel Painter for Art Rage also, then no one's going to find those brushes, and the amount of effort I put in might be, you know, a few people might enjoy the brushes, but most people would never ever know about them. So, you know, I can't stray too far outside of my base, my demographic of people. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to, you know, I certainly do occasionally do Art Rage videos. I have a few, and but yeah, it's just, at this point for me, Art Rage is kind of there isn't a whole lot of reason to use it, because a lot of the reason why I used it before was it had that nice thick paint, but now Corel Painter has better thick paint, so that was really the only reason why I was using it. It is a decent art application, though. I still do recommend it. Dave says, I couldn't draw 2 lines straight, but after a few years of my clips tutorials, I'm improving. Thank you. You're welcome, Dave. I'm glad to hear that. It's nice to know that what I'm doing is working. Jana says she likes that I'm one of the solid content makers for Corel Painter, such a complex software, not everyone really explains it. And that, you know, that's a compliment there, because it is something that's, teaching people is not easy, teaching people software is especially not easy, and teaching people how to master software, to have success with it, on top of mastering art, or you know, mastering, that's just a word. Nobody's a master. Getting better at art or enjoying art. If I can help people do all of those things, you know, that's great, because it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of dedication, but it's what I'm passionate about, so it's not difficult for me to do. I don't have to force myself to do it. I like making brushes, you know, I like making tutorials, and that's what I want to do with my time, so I do it. So let's see what else we got for comments or for questions here. Another question was, I bought a drawing tablet and haven't used it once. What do I do? Use it once. Use it once and use it twice, and make sure that it works. You know, plug it in. If you're having trouble getting it to work, check out some of my videos. If I don't have a video that explains that exact tablet or that brand of tablet, I'm sure you can find one to help you get it set up. And then get some free art software. Don't worry about trying to figure out what paid art software to get yet. You might want to upgrade later, but you know, get something like Krita is good, but it's a little bit too complicated. So maybe get like Medibang or you know, Paint Tool Sci or something that's a little bit simpler. I'm sure people in the comments can suggest some really easy to use free art apps. I think even Art Rage has it, like a basic one. There's Corel Painter Essentials, which is a light version of Corel Painter. Any of those really easy ones, and don't worry about making completed art. Don't worry about selling the art. Don't worry about posting the art online. Don't worry about improving. Don't worry about anything that's going to get you stressed out. Just doodle. And if you want to trace over stuff, trace over stuff. If you want to copy other people's work and, you know, draw fan art, do that. You do whatever you want. The important thing is that you're building the hand-eye coordination so that you're able to, you know, actually draw on the thing. But then also you need to get used to how digital painting works, what you can do with it, what your style is going to be, how to use the software. There's so many beginners things that are just really easy to absorb just by doing and doodling, and not, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to like test yourself and work really hard at it. Just do it. And have fun and do whatever you enjoy. Draw whatever you enjoy drawing, and even if it's just abstract or anything, stick figures, just draw that. Dr. Jack wants to know about Ty Lopez's 4 Pillars of Health, Wealth, Love, and Happiness. I'm not familiar with that. Lots of people have pillars of stuff. Being healthy is good. Being loved is always good. Being happy is definitely very good. Wealth, it's better to be able to survive, and I, you know, where do you cross that line into like being really rich and having more money than you need compared to just being able to live comfortably? You know, that's a line that I'm not necessarily comfortable crossing. If I ever got so successful that I was making tons of money to be able to have a private jet and all that stuff, I don't think I would want that stuff. You know, it's hard to say. Maybe greed takes over, and that's what happens to people. It seems to happen a lot. But, you know, even just during the holidays, like I feel guilty for sitting at home in my house that has heat, and I've got, you know, I've got everything I need, but then there's people outside of my house, not literally outside, but, you know, people who don't have that kind of stuff. And so it doesn't feel right having so much more than other people, you know, like everybody should have their basic needs met. And, you know, then beyond that, if you want to be super rich, that's fine. But until until there aren't that many people out there, you know, basically starving to death and homeless, I don't see how anybody can be happy being wealthy if you care anything about other people. So not familiar with those 4 pillars per se, but I think I agree with 3 of them. You know, success has nothing to do with money. Money is kind of a result of success sometimes, but you can be successful and not have any drive for money at all. So I don't know, you know, maybe the wealth is a little more deep than that. Don't get me wrong, I've been a starving artist, so I can talk all about that. But I'm not starving now, but I'm also not, you know, I don't have a private jet. I have some nice stuff, but, you know, I've also paid the price by not having nice stuff and not having, you know, there's a lot of stuff I didn't have for a long time because I prioritized art over wealth and status symbols and things like that. Drawing dude got Krita, but hasn't figured out how to use it very well yet. Much more used to Photoshop. It is a little tricky to learn. There's some stuff that's kind of buried. I'm not exactly the most fluent in it either, so I don't blame you for that. But the same can be said for Photoshop. It just comes down to what you're more comfortable with, and I think it's kind of why it's important right off the bat to find a good art application and stick with it, because it's going to be really hard later to transition into something else. I know there's a lot of artists out there who are Photoshop people who probably would really like to move to Painter, but they can't because they're just so comfortable in Photoshop that if they move to Painter, then they're going to be fumbling around for a long time trying to learn it. So I'm just glad that I chose Painter right off the bat, not Photoshop. But I had time to try Photoshop. You know, I did a lot of my first digital paintings were in Photoshop. Jenna says, a lot of people intense here in Seattle. So expensive here, we have to be grateful. It is. It's ridiculously expensive in Seattle, and it just keeps getting worse. And there are a lot of tent cities, and a lot of people who have everything, way much more than they need. A lot of people that are perfectly fine with that, who just want to shoo away all these other people who aren't so fortunate, you know. And it's like, Seattle's a weird city to live in. It's very progressive, but at the same time, it has, you know, it has a lot of problems. So that's one of them. But I think I've kind of answered about as many questions as I have room for today. It was great to do some channel reviews, so I'll go ahead and wrap this up since it's a little bit after noon. I encourage everybody to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Definitely do like Jana and Mary did and check out my patreon.com/AaronRutton. And pledge there. You can get lots of great stuff like longer special tutorials and brushes and, you know, lots of great stuff there. There's links to pretty much all the stuff I've talked about today down in the video description. You might also check out the link I have for TubeBuddy. I didn't get a chance to talk about it today, although I'll have to do it in another session. TubeBuddy is a great, there's a free version of the plugin, but it's a browser plugin that can help you optimize your YouTube channel. This is not sponsored or anything. It's a tool that I use that saved me a ton of time. It helps you come up with keywords. It helps you make thumbnails. It helps you do a lot of the busy work that takes up a lot of your time running a YouTube channel. And you can save hours and hours and hours of work if you use that plugin. So definitely, getting all blurry here, definitely check that out. Focus on me. And then of course, you know, check out all my courses and whatnot. Isn't this cool? I got a little end screen here, so then people later can, you know, check out more of my videos and stuff. There be things there later. Don't worry about that. But you can see there's links down at the bottom. Support my work on Patreon, download my courses. You can check out me on social media, etc. So thanks everybody today for joining me for this live stream. Thanks for all the great questions. Thanks for the channel reviews, and especially thanks for the super chats. I really appreciate that. It gives me incentive to keep doing more live streams like this. So I hope everybody has a great day, great evening, wherever you're at. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.